3 minutes. That's all it took for one video to dismantle a barrier that had stood since MTV's launch. But what if the most powerful music network in America had succeeded in keeping it off the air? What if Michael Jackson had accepted their refusal? The world would look very different today. MTV dominated music culture. If your video wasn't on MTV, your song didn't exist to millions of young Americans. The network had launched 2 years earlier with a revolutionary concept: music videos, 24 hours a day. But there was a problem nobody wanted to discuss. According to reports from the time, MTV had an unofficial policy: rock music only. And in practice, that meant something else entirely. Michael Jackson's album Thriller had been released in late 1982. It was already selling well. But according to music industry analysts, sales weren't reaching their full potential. Radio played the songs. People bought the album, but something was missing: the visual component. In 1983, if you wanted to reach young America, you needed MTV, and MTV wasn't playing Michael Jackson. The Billie Jean video had been completed, directed by Steve Barron. It featured innovative visual effects. Michael's performance was electric. The production quality matched anything on television. According to those who saw early versions, this wasn't just a music video. It was a piece of art that elevated the entire medium. But none of that mattered if MTV refused to air it. Behind the scenes, reportedly, frustration was building at CBS Records, Michael's label. They had an artist creating groundbreaking work. They had videos ready to broadcast. But MTV's programming decisions were blocking access to millions of potential fans. And according to accounts from label executives at the time, the reason was never explicitly stated, but everyone understood what was happening. The network's explanation, when pressed, focused on format. MTV played rock music. Michael Jackson was pop, was R&B, was something that didn't fit their definition of rock. But according to music historians, this explanation fell apart under scrutiny. MTV played plenty of pop acts. They played new wave, synth pop, artists that stretched any definition of rock. The real issue, many believed, was something MTV wouldn't say out loud. Walter Yetnikoff, president of CBS Records, reportedly decided to take action. According to accounts of what happened next, he made a phone call to MTV executives. The conversation, as described by those familiar with it, was direct. CBS had multiple artists on MTV's rotation. Those artists generated ratings, and if MTV wouldn't play Michael Jackson, CBS was prepared to pull every single one of their artists from the network. No more videos, no more content, nothing. Think about the stakes here. CBS Records was one of the largest labels in the world. Losing their entire catalog would devastate MTV's programming, but making this threat meant risking the relationship. If MTV called the bluff, if they stood firm, CBS would have to follow through or lose all credibility. According to reports, Yetnikoff wasn't bluffing. He was prepared to burn the bridge if necessary, because keeping Billie Jean off MTV wasn't just bad business, it was wrong. If you're seeing how strategic pressure and moral courage combine to change an industry, leave a comment about which Michael Jackson decision you think required the most courage, and subscribe, because we're exploring the moments that define not just his career but music history itself. MTV faced a choice. According to accounts from network executives at the time, internal debates were heated. Some argued the network should maintain its format. Others recognized they were on the wrong side of history. The pressure wasn't just coming from CBS. Other labels were watching. Artists were watching. The media was starting to ask questions about MTV's playlist demographics. The unofficial policy was becoming impossible to defend publicly. The decision was made: Billie Jean would air. But according to reports, it wasn't a simple addition to rotation. MTV initially scheduled it for limited airplay, light rotation, mostly late night, a compromise that technically met CBS's demand while minimizing the change to their programming. But something unexpected happened. Phone calls flooded MTV's offices. According to accounts from the network, viewers wanted to see the video again and again. The innovative effects, Michael's performance, the overall production quality made everything else look dated by comparison. MTV's demographic, Young America, didn't care about the network's format definitions. They wanted to see Michael Jackson, and they wanted to see him constantly. Within weeks, reportedly, Billie Jean moved from light rotation to heavy rotation. It became one of the most requested videos on the network. The barrier hadn't just been broken, it had been demolished, and MTV's programming would never be the same. According to media analysts, this moment changed the trajectory of music television. Once Michael Jackson proved that audiences responded to quality regardless of genre definitions, other black artists gained access. Prince, Tina Turner, Lionel Richie, artists who had been excluded found the doors suddenly open. But here's what makes this moment even more significant. According to biographers, Michael Jackson wasn't just fighting for himself, he understood the broader implications. If MTV's barrier stood, it would reinforce segregation in music. Young audiences would continue to see popular music as divided by invisible racial lines. By forcing the issue, by refusing to accept exclusion, Michael created opportunities for an entire generation of artists. The Billie Jean video itself was revolutionary. The special effects, with the sidewalk squares lighting up under Michael's feet, had never been seen before. According to the director, Steve Barron, the goal was to create something that would look futuristic, something that would be remembered, but the technical innovation served the performance. Michael's dancing, his presence, his ability to command attention through a screen, that's what made the video unforgettable. What's remarkable is the preparation that created this moment. Michael hadn't just made a great video, he had created leverage. According to music business experts, his album was selling so well that CBS Records had confidence to push MTV. If Thriller had been a moderate success, the label might not have risked the confrontation. But Michael's commercial performance gave him power, and he used that power not just for himself, but to change the system. The impact rippled through the music industry immediately. According to reports from record labels, MTV rotation became the new battleground for breaking artists. A video on MTV could transform a career overnight, and suddenly, that access was available to artists of all backgrounds. The diversity of music television increased dramatically in the years following Billie Jean's breakthrough, not because MTV executives had a change of heart, but because Michael Jackson and CBS Records forced their hand. Share this with anyone who appreciates how art and business strategy combine to create social change, because what Michael Jackson did with one 3-minute video was more than entertainment. It was a challenge to the status quo that changed the landscape for everyone who came after. But the barrier breaking didn't stop with airplay. According to MTV historians, Michael Jackson became one of the network's biggest stars. His videos set new standards for production quality. When Thriller's full-length video aired, it became a cultural event. MTV built programming around Michael Jackson premieres. The network that had initially refused to play his work now depended on him for ratings. The irony was not lost on industry observers. The business lesson here is profound. According to entertainment business analysts, Michael Jackson proved that excellence creates leverage by making undeniable art. By achieving undeniable commercial success, he put himself in a position where exclusion became impossible to justify. MTV couldn't pretend Billie Jean wasn't a masterpiece. They couldn't ignore the audience demand. Excellence forced the conversation that changed the policy. From a cultural perspective, according to music historians, this moment represented something larger than one artist gaining airplay. It demonstrated that barriers that seem permanent can fall when challenged by the right combination of talent, timing, and strategic pressure. MTV's unofficial policy appeared solid until it was tested. Once tested, it collapsed, and the landscape it had tried to maintain disappeared with it. The personal courage this required shouldn't be understated. According to those who knew Michael Jackson, he was aware of the potential backlash, speaking out about exclusion, challenging powerful industry gatekeepers. These actions carried risk. If CBS's gambit had failed, if MTV had found ways to marginalize Michael despite the pressure, his career trajectory could have been different. But he was willing to take that risk because the principle mattered. What's fascinating is how this decision fits into Michael Jackson's broader pattern of challenging industry norms. According to biographers, he consistently pushed against barriers throughout his career. Whether it was demanding ownership of his master recordings, breaking racial barriers in music video, or later purchasing publishing catalogs, Michael understood that accepting the status quo meant accepting limitations, and he refused to be limited. The 3-minute video became a turning point not just for Michael Jackson but for music culture itself. According to media scholars, MTV after Billie Jean was fundamentally different from MTV before. The network evolved from a predominantly rock format to a genuine music network. The segregation that had defined early MTV gave way to something closer to reflecting the actual diversity of popular music. And it happened because one artist, backed by one determined record executive, decided the barrier had to fall. Looking back, entertainment historians often cite this as one of the pivotal moments in modern music history, not just because of the immediate impact, but because of what it represented. Systemic barriers fall when excellence meets determination. Change happens when artists refuse to accept unjust limitations. Progress occurs when strategic thinking combines with moral courage. Michael Jackson demonstrated all three with one 3-minute video. The legacy of this decision extends beyond music television. According to cultural analysts, breaking MTV's barrier helped normalize integrated popular culture for young Americans. Kids watching MTV in 1983 saw Michael Jackson alongside rock acts, alongside pop acts, alongside everyone. That visual integration, that normalization of excellence crossing racial lines, that had impact beyond charts and sales. It shaped how a generation thought about music and culture. So what can we learn from this moment? According to business strategists, several principles emerge. First, excellence creates leverage that can overcome systemic barriers. Second, strategic alliances multiply individual power. Third, timing matters. Pressure applied at the right moment achieves what years of gradual approach might never accomplish. And fourth, the courage to confront unjust systems creates opportunities not just for yourself, but for everyone who follows. Michael Jackson's 3-minute video didn't just break MTV's color barrier. It proved that art could change culture, that commercial success could fund social progress, that one determined artist, supported by strategic partners, could transform an industry. This wasn't just about music videos. It was about what's possible when talent refuses to accept limits. But breaking barriers was just one aspect of Michael Jackson's genius. In our next video, we'll explore another revolutionary decision, a business move so bold, so unprecedented, that it would make Michael one of the wealthiest artists in history while changing how the entire music industry operated. A purchase that everyone said was impossible, until Michael Jackson proved them wrong. Stay tuned.